Hello, viewers. I'm glad you're here. Have you ever had a makgeolli emergency? Have you ever had to brew makgeolli in a hurry? Well, this recipe is for you. This is a 3-day rice wine. This is emergency makgeolli. It's called samilju, literally 3-day wine. Later in the video, there is an earthquake, so watch out for that. But right now, let's look at the recipe. This is the recipe I want to follow. It's a recipe with juk. This is the recipe in Chinese characters. So it's a very simple recipe. One thing it does involve is preparing the nuruk in water the day before. And just like the last emergency makgeolli recipe that I followed, I'm going to add wine yeast and I'm going to ferment at a warm temperature. That's going to give me the best chance of success. I only have 3 days to make this. So this recipe is from this book, which is more than 500 years old. And this is what the original recipe looks like for samilju. Again, it's just a few lines of text, but I'll do my best to follow it. Okay, so the day before, I need to soak my nuruk. So I'm using the rest of this bag, about 50 grams of nuruk and 250 milliliters of water. That's the same ratio of water to nuruk as the written recipe. So I'm going to soak this for a day. Then I'm using regular rice flour, 250 grams, and 750 milliliters of water, so a 3-to-1 ratio. And as I'm stirring this on the stove at medium-low heat, the whole house starts rattling. So there was a small earthquake during the production of this emergency makgeolli. Now the earthquake's over. Keep stirring and it'll thicken up and set aside to cool. So I soaked the nuruk in water for a day. That's called mul nuruk. And now I'm straining this, so I'm just going to use the liquid to brew with. And it works because the enzymes in the nuruk are water soluble, so they'll transfer into the liquid. And now I am adding some wine yeast to this to give myself the best chance of success. And the juk has cooled down. Add the nuruk water and carefully stir it. So unlike the last recipe, I'm only going to stir this for 10 minutes or so. That's going to have to be enough. The juk does liquefy mostly, so it's pourable. So I can pour it into the jar. And I'm going to ferment this at 25 degrees Celsius in my temperature control chamber. The next day, there is bubbling. It's a lot of rapid bubbles. And I stir it. The next day, you can't see the bubbles, but I can still hear them. Stir it again. And day 3, it's separated. Sediment has settled, and yeah, fermentation seems to be done. So I boil my filter bag, and this should be pretty easy to strain. Stir it one more time. Pour it through the filter bag. Pretty good. And squeeze it through. And the jjigae is 63 grams. And you can see it's a bit moist. So perhaps I could have squeezed it harder. It's also interesting that this brew, using rice flour porridge, still results in jjigae. It still doesn't completely go through the filter bag. Okay, so I have one bottle of emergency makgeolli that brewed for 3 days. My 3-day rice wine from a 500-year-old recipe. Well, it fermented. Let's see how it tastes. All right, so I filtered and bottled this about an hour ago, and since this is emergency makgeolli, I'm going to drink it right now. So this is 3-day emergency makgeolli, samilju. It has started to settle a little bit. There's some cloudy but clearish layer at the top. It smelled good while I was bottling it, but let's see how it tastes. So very milky color. Looks like a good texture. Has a bit of a sour aroma. So it's that lactic acid smell, which is good. Want that. And maybe some rice aroma too. So at the beginning you get the sourness, small amount of sweetness, then it becomes dry and astringent and wheaty in the middle. And aftertaste, quite wheaty and yeasty. It doesn't seem to be carbonated. Texture is good. Very uniform texture, a bit thin. I do taste more alcohol than the 1-day brew. Now this recipe used quite a bit of water compared to the amount of rice, so there's no need to dilute this. It's already diluted, I think, appropriately. This might be, 3 to 5%. So it's not strong, but it does have the right aspects of makgeolli taste. The aspect, though, that's most prominent is the astringency. That's maybe a bit unusual. Yeah. Now, it's not bad. I've tasted makgeolli like this, considering this only brewed for 3 days. Yeah, there's not a lot of sweetness, maybe just a bit at the beginning, but quite a bit of wheaty body in it, or yeasty body. And there is some alcohol in this, so I think this 3-day recipe is a more successful emergency makgeolli recipe. If you had to brew makgeolli in a hurry, you can do it in 3 days just with rice flour, which I didn't realize was possible since I had a bad experience with rice flour, just plain rice flour brew before. So I am pleasantly surprised that this turned out, and I should also say this is also much better than any of the quick brew powder kits. Those ones that are done in a day or two, this tastes a lot better than those. This has real flavor. You can taste the real ingredients. This the only shortcut is that this was made with rice flour, and it was brewed quickly at a relatively high temperature with quite a bit of water, and it completely fermented. After 3 days, it didn't seem like it was fermenting much anymore. So fermentation was pretty much done, and it was time to bottle it after only 3 days. So it looks like this is a way to address a makgeolli emergency. You can make makgeolli in only 3 days. So let me know in the comments, have you ever had a makgeolli emergency? What was it? Yeah, let me know. I'm curious. I'm happy to show you my result today. Thank you for watching.